The owner refused to let the poor old man into the restaurant, but the waitress stood against him to feed the poor man. When the man revealed his identity, everyone was shocked. In a small, bustling diner on the outskirts of town, life moved at its own pace. The clinking of plates echoed through the air, mingling with the hiss of coffee machines and the low hum of conversation from patrons scattered across worn vinyl booths. It was an unremarkable place, nothing fancy, just a cozy spot where locals gathered for greasy breakfasts and endless cups of coffee. At the center of it all was Emily, a hard-working waitress whose dreams stretched far beyond her modest paycheck. Emily had been working at this diner for 3 years now, juggling long shifts by day and night classes by evening. She dreamed of becoming a teacher someday, hoping to inspire young minds the way her favorite high school English teacher once inspired her. But dreams do not pay bills, and every penny she earned went straight into savings or tuition fees. Still, despite the grind, Emily carried herself with warmth and grace, always greeting customers with a smile that lit up even the gloomiest corners of the diner. But today was not like any other day. As Emily bustled between tables, balancing trays laden with pancakes and bacon, the door creaked open, letting in a gust of chilly wind. A frail old man shuffled inside, his steps slow and deliberate. His clothes were threadbare, patched together in places, and his face bore deep lines etched by years of hardship. He scanned the room hesitantly before settling into the corner booth, as if trying to make himself invisible. Something about him caught Emily's attention immediately. There was a quiet sadness in his posture, a heaviness in the way he slumped against the seat. Most people who came here were regulars, truck drivers grabbing quick bites, families enjoying lazy Sunday brunches, but this man was different. He did not belong here, not really. And yet, there he sat, alone and unnoticed. Curiosity tugged at Emily, but professionalism took over. Grabbing her notepad, she approached him with her usual warm smile. "Good afternoon," she said softly. "What can I get you?" The old man looked up, startled, as though he hadn't expected anyone to acknowledge him. For a moment, he simply stared at her, his eyes clouded with uncertainty. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he whispered hoarsely, "Just some water, please." Emily frowned. Water in this weather? Something about his request struck her as odd. The diner was known for its hearty meals, and ordering nothing but water seemed out of place. Before she could press further, their gruff boss, Mr. Grayson, barked from behind the counter, "Emily, stop wasting time and get back to work." She glanced at the old man one more time. His hands trembled slightly as they rested on the edge of the table, and his thin frame suggested he hadn't eaten properly in days. Against her better judgment and fully aware of the consequences, Emily decided to bring him a cup of soup instead of just water. After all, what harm could it do? When Emily returned with a steaming bowl of chicken noodle soup, the old man's eyes widened in surprise. He opened his mouth to protest, but Emily cut him off gently. "It's on the house," she lied, placing the bowl in front of him. "You look like you could use something warm." For a brief moment, gratitude flickered in his gaze. "Thank you," he murmured, his voice barely audible. But their interaction did not go unnoticed. From across the room, Mr. Grayson watched with growing irritation. Within seconds, he stormed over, his heavy footsteps echoing ominously. Slamming his palms onto the table, he leaned in menacingly, his face inches away from Emily's. "What is this?" he growled, pointing at the bowl of soup. "We do not give out free food here. Do you think we're running a charity?" The entire diner fell silent. Conversations halted mid-sentence, forks clattered onto plates, and all eyes turned toward the confrontation unfolding in the corner booth. Emily felt her cheeks flush under the weight of everyone's stares, but she refused to back down. "He is hungry," she said firmly, meeting Mr. Grayson's glare head-on. "And no one deserves to sit here starving while we serve others." Mr. Grayson's nostrils flared. "You will pay for that out of your tips," he snapped. "And if you pull another stunt like this, you're fired." The tension in the room was suffocating. Customers exchanged uneasy glances, torn between admiration for Emily's courage and fear of crossing Mr. Grayson. The old man, meanwhile, looked up at her with an expression that was impossible to read. Quietly, almost imperceptibly, he muttered, "Thank you." Emily nodded, ignoring the weight of her boss glare. She walked away, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. Little did she know, this act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. Later that evening, after the diner had closed and the last customer had left, Emily stayed late to clean up. As she wiped down tables and stacked chairs, her mind kept drifting back to the old man. Who was he? Why had he come to this diner, of all places, and why had he ordered only water when it was clear he needed more? Her thoughts were interrupted when she noticed something tucked beneath the napkin dispenser in the corner booth, the old man's booth. Curious, she picked it up and froze. It was an envelope. Inside was a crisp $100 bill. Her breath hitched. What was this? A tip, gratitude, or perhaps guilt? Her mind raced with possibilities. Could the old man have been testing her somehow? Was this some kind of social experiment? Whatever the reason, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random act of generosity. Tucking the envelope into her apron, Emily resolved to return it tomorrow in case the old man came back. Surely, he had realized he had left it behind and wanted back. Right, but when morning arrived, so did a surprise visitor, a sharply dressed man in a black suit. He strode into the diner with an air of authority, his polished shoes clicking against the tiled floor. Ignoring the curious stares of the customers, he walked straight to Mr. Grayson, who paled instantly upon seeing him. "Is there a waitress named Emily working here?" the man asked curtly, his tone leaving no room for argument. Before anyone could answer, Emily stepped forward nervously. "That's me. Can I help you?" The man handed her a card. It read, "Law Offices of Harrison & Co. We have been looking for you," he said. "There has been a development regarding the gentleman who dined here yesterday. Please come with me." Panic surged through Emily. What had happened? Had the old man gotten into trouble, or worse, was this some kind of trap set by Mr. Grayson? Her instincts screamed at her to refuse, but something about the man's demeanor told her she had no choice. With trembling hands, she followed him outside. At the law office, Emily sat across from the suited man, her heart pounding as he opened a file folder. The room was eerily quiet, save for the soft rustle of papers. "The man you served yesterday," he began, his voice steady and professional, "was Jonathan Whittaker. Perhaps you have heard of him." Emily shook her head, confusion clouding her features. "No, should I?" The lawyer raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised. Jonathan Whittaker was once one of the wealthiest men in the country, a self-made millionaire who built his fortune from scratch. However, he disappeared from public life decades ago, choosing to live anonymously. Recently, he passed away. Emily gasped, her mind reeling. "Passed away? That frail old man? Impossible." The lawyer continued, unfazed by her shock. "Before his death, Mr. Whittaker made arrangements to distribute his fortune anonymously to individuals who demonstrated genuine kindness without expecting reward. You see, he believed true character reveals itself in small acts of compassion. He slid a document toward her. "You are the sole beneficiary of his estate valued at over 50 million. Emily's world tilted. Millionaire beneficiary, this had to be a mistake. Yet the papers in front of her were undeniable. "But why me?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I only gave him a bowl of soup." The lawyer smiled faintly. "Sometimes, the simplest gestures speak volumes." Mr. Whitaker valued humility above all else. Your defiance against your boss, your willingness to sacrifice your own earnings, it spoke to the kind of person you are. Back at the diner, news of Emily's windfall spread like wildfire. Rumors flew faster than flies on a summer day, and soon everyone knew about the mysterious old man and the fortune he had left behind. Mr. Grayson, desperate to salvage whatever scraps of dignity he had left, tried to grovel, offering apologies and promises of leniency. But Emily, now confident and composed, simply handed in her resignation. "I am done letting people treat me or anyone else with disrespect," she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "Kindness is not weakness, it's strength. And I would not compromise my values ever again." With her newfound wealth, Emily opened a community center where struggling families could find meals, shelter, and support. She vowed never to forget where she came from or the lesson the old man taught her. In life, we often underestimate the power of small actions. A single moment of kindness can ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never understand. True wealth is not measured in dollars but in the impact we have on others. So the next time you see someone in need, remember, even the smallest act of compassion might hold the key to changing not just their life but yours as well.